I'm Andrew Milne, and you're all very welcome back to the Celtic Soul podcast. The podcast is available across all platforms, and you can also get us on Celtic Fanzine TV. The Celtic Soul podcast and Celtic Fanzine TV are brought to you by More Than 90 Minutes Celtic Fanzine, which first went on sale at Celtic Park 21 years ago. The new issue, number 123, is now available to buy in both print and digital format, and you can get all the details by visiting CelticFanzine.com. If you're a new listener to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're listening on Celtic Fanzine TV, please hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. And if you're a returning listener, well, thanks very much for tuning back in. This episode of the Celtic Soul podcast is once again sponsored by our good friends at O'Shea's Restaurant, Temple Bar in Dublin, and we thank Martin O'Shea for his continued support. If you're a Celtic-minded business or a Celtic supporters club, and you would like to sponsor an episode of the podcast, the fanzine, or the website, please email us at info@celticfanzine.com. You can also message us on social media or leave a message on celticfanzine.com. Joining me on the show for a chat is Roddy Collins. Celtic fan Roddy is one of the most colourful characters in Irish football. Roddy Collins, you're very welcome to the Celtic Soul podcast. How's life? And firstly, tell us about this new book.
The RodFather. Yeah. Oh, let me think. It just came out of nowhere. Now, Paul Howard, who I know a long time, I was doing a podcast with Second Captains Live, actually, and I just threw out a remark joking, and I said, you'll read it in my book one day. And then I got a phone call about 3 days later. Paul Howard, who I know a long time, he wanted to set me up a meeting with Penguin Publishers. I said, I'm not interested. He said, unless you do it, Paul. And he said, I'll do it. And that was it. That's how it started. I mean, I have a football agent, so he's getting me a bit of work. Dave McManus, he got the ball rolling. When I spoke to him one day, I said, the only one who could do a bit for me is Paul Howard. And then he made a few phone calls, and that was it. So that Howard going to give it a bit. Yeah. So that was how it started. And we sat down for 10 months every Friday, and I spilt out my guts onto the table, and he fucking polished her up into a book. I don't know how he was able to get it past, but it's stories of my life. It's not my life story because a lot of it couldn't go into a book. But anyway, he polished her up, made it presentable, and it's flying off the shelves. Thank God.
And it's amazing about books, right? Because I've worked with Alan Thompson. We've done loads of live shows. We've done loads of Q&As. And it was only when I read his book that I learned. And now I've been on holidays with Tomo. Yeah. And it was only when I read his book that I realised he kept so much back for his book, Roddy.
Yeah.
Are we going to get something we don't know, Roddy?
No, well, everything you know is in the book. I mean, Tomo's out in Australia. I tried to get him last night. But, what you call it? No, everything's in it. It's just polished up a little bit, there's a few hairy moments in it that would have been a little bit more ropey. Only Paul's expertise took the rough edges off it, made it more presentable. But no, from start to finish, I spilt everything out, and he took it and said, do you want to take that now? We said, no. In actual fact, I want to put more in, but there's a few we couldn't put in, for legal reasons.
Roddy, it's like you're so well travelled as both a footballer and a manager. Like, you've had umpteen clubs, managed in different countries, played everywhere. You were involved in, there was rumours you were involved in takeovers at clubs, and just been like, it's so much to consume when you research Roddy Collins. There's so much to consume. So that's why I think it is great that you now have a book that we can pick up and read about, because love you or loathe you, Roddy, you're one of the most colourful characters that's been in the League of Ireland, and there hasn't been that many characters over the years, and probably the last one, Roddy. There's not, the managers now are just so managerial now.
They're all coming out of conveyor belt now, and I've done all these stupid courses that you have to do. I mean, I'd won Dublin Bohs, kept banging in the league, went to Carlisle, kept in the league for 2 years in a row, which was my biggest achievement. I get to a cup final. And then you come home, they tell you if you learn, do courses, how to manage. So what happens is, like this, they prepare you for, if you lose a game, you don't talk about how bad you were, you talk about how good they were. You watch your P's and Q's, you don't go on the camera for 15 minutes, blah, 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 blah. A load of crap. So they're all like watching their P's and Q's. I used to love giving it from the hip. And the one that loved it most was me Celeste, because he made more money on me than anyone else defending me in courtrooms. Do you know what I mean? But look, as I said in the book, to me, when I used to get dressed to go to a match, I was dressing to go into a theatre. right? And the players are the main players in it. The referee, the fourth officials, the linesman, the crowd, the TV, everybody was all part of this drama. And I loved winding everyone up. I absolutely adored it. And winding up with a manager and dressing for the occasion, wearing spats, pinstripe suits, mohair overcoats. It was like bleeding Don Corleone going on the pitch some days. But I loved it when I was getting the stick, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was brilliant. John Gotti, I was called one day with the fawn overcoat. But to me, it was all fun. But the fun was only added when we were winning. And thankfully, we won a lot. I won a lot more than I lost, you know?
Yeah, Roddy, when I said to people that you were coming onto the show, they all go back, not to your playing career. They all went back to that time at Bohs.
Yeah.
As a manager.
Well, it's a funny one.
That's all he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, but it's a funny one, you see. People normally, like, someone said to me, I've done a gig the other night for a testimonial dinner for Brian Mullins with Joe Brolly and another man up your way, well, near enough to, I'd say, Bernard Flynn. And they said about the book, most sports book are rags to riches. Mine was riches to bleeding rags, because I started out minted employing 30 people when I went into Bohs. And I had no experience really. I achieved in Bangor, kept them in the Premier League and won one of the smaller cups in the North before season as a player manager. Then I had 3 years away with Stephen. And then I got into Bohs. And in the space of 2.5 years, we went from relegation fodder to runners-up the next year, cup finals beaten in a replay by Shells, who were far better than us. And then the following year, cleaning everything up, including European success. So in the space of my first 4 years as a manager, I'd achieved more than most managers achieve in 20 or 30 years. So where was it going to go from there? Well, it was going to England for me. And I was going great guns over there with Carl Oyle, absolutely flying it, till a new owner came in. And that went absolutely pear-shaped. And then we all know the history of that. I was blocked from working for about 12 years. So people wonder why, and they'll read it in the book. Where did Roddy Collins go? He didn't go anywhere. I just couldn't get an interview. I couldn't get a day's work. And the only jobs I could get were people who were at war with the FAI and were just doing it to wind the FAI up. So it was tough old road, you know. But yeah, the Bohs one was it. It was a great time. It was a difficult time, as you'll read in the book. And I'm not trying to sell the book, but there was a lot more battles off the pitch, let's say, than on the pitch. But a gang of fellas, and they were brilliant. They were great, half mad, some of them, right? We'd all sorts. We'd garglers, we'd fellas that each our couch. You know, no discipline in that. But on the pitch, on match days, we had a team of men, proper men, who I loved, and they loved me. And I got to show a lot of sticky periods, and subsequently we won the double, and that was unbelievable. Then I got the bullet.
and Roddy, as a player, you know, what was the highlight then as a player for you? Because again, when you talk about Roddy Collins, everyone talks about him as the manager, but they forget that there was a player there for years.
Yeah, well, I was flying it. Come back from England. I was on 3 trials in 1 year. Turned 18, signed my Bohs. Getting tipped to go to Celtic, Tottenham, Man United, they were all on about me. And I played a European game out in the Stadium of Light against Sporting Lisbon. And I played out of my skin. And that was it. I turned the corner. I was going back to England. And a week later, I got my legs snapped in two. Tib and fib, absolutely destroyed. And that I didn't kick a ball in anger probably for 3 years. So from 18 to 21, I was a nobody in no man's land, trying to make a recovery. Then Turlock O'Connor took a punt on me at loan the year they won the league, and I scored 20-odd goals, and then my name was right back up there. And then I moved from there to Drogheda, I think it was. Billy McNeil was going to sign me, he tells me years later, when I was at Drogheda. And then from Drogheda I went to Dundalk, and then I was sold to Mansfield Town. So, and then I broke my leg twice. Again, no, sorry, yeah, twice in Mansfield Town, and I broke my elbow with Leicester in England. I didn't play a lot of games. Come home, and I signed for Rovers, top scorer there, and then I went there to Dundalk, won a league medal with Dundalk, and then I went there to Sligo under Dermot Keeley, and then from there after a few games to Crusaders, where I had my best spell. I think I got 46 goals in 92 games or something. And that was the highlight of my football career, playing up Crusaders.
Yeah, it's some travelling, Roddy. At that age, right, when you get a leg break, like so bad, like what is going through a young player's mind, but all this interest in them? Like, did you go into, like, did you get depressed? Did you, what was the story?
No, I didn't. Later on, when I got injured, I got a little bit down. No, I didn't. I remember the day I broke, and I looked down, and my knee was facing the north, and my foot was facing the northwest. And I looked down and said, my leg is broke. And instantly, when I was on the stretcher in the hospital, I said to the doctor, how long does it take to come back with a broken leg? And he said, about 9 months at the time. I said, I'll be back in 8. And that was my dedication. That was me goal. And I never missed one training session, not even one, down in Dalymount. Done the weights, done everything that could be done till I could go back jogging in the whole lot. But it didn't heal. They were going to have to break it again after 6 months. So I was a long, drawn-out period, and I got a little bit down, but I still believed I could achieve something. And then the years I lost, I decided to get a forged birth certificate, which I did. So when I was 25, just turning 25, I got a birth certificate that I was 22 and wrote to all the lower league clubs in England. And I got a trial with Mansfield Town, and they signed me for 2.5 years. A record fee, 15 sterling, £1,000 to Dundalk. So I never gave up, kept at it. And that's my story. It's not a sad story. I've no regrets. I don't ever think, if or what or whatever. But look, it is what it is. That's life,
And Roddy, what was it like growing up in a working class family in Dublin, with a sports mad family?
Boxing mad. Football wasn't on the radar in my house. Back in the day, I was called a sissy for playing football. We had a boxing gym on the back of the house in the council estate in Cabra. 9 was in a 2-bedroom house, right? And we weren't poor. My dad had a decent job in Guinness's, right? We weren't rich either, but we had a brilliant childhood we had up in Cabra. It's a place that's really close to my heart. I go back twice a week to Cabra. And it was all fun. Loads of hoolies in the house every weekend. Boxing. And then I seen Wee Chinky and George Best, and that was it, football for me. So I remember I fought for the youth heavyweight title when I was 16, just before I went to Fulham. And I got beaten in the final by a lad in Sally Nugget. And I remember before that going to school one day, trying to have a kip on the desk, but my face was bruised and I couldn't get to sleep, and all the hard blood up my nose from sparring the night before. And then I seen George Best on the telly, and I went, no, that's for me. Years earlier, I seen him. Then I seen him coming on with the 4 Costa. So football was for me then, and that was it. I went after that, and then they all supported me. But the rest were all boxers,
Yeah, no, you mentioned the boxing. Pascal is making a name for himself as a coach.
Yeah.
But like when we think of the Collins name, we think of Steve. Like I'm a big boxing fan, so it probably won't be of interest to some of the listeners. But he done it the hard way when he went over the States with the Irish team, and walked into the Petronelli brothers gym, and But because I followed boxing, I remember when he came back. I remember him beating Chris Poyer for the middleweight title.
Yeah.
And people, they were they didn't really have the respect for him but I knew he was after beating Tony Thornton in America.
Yeah.
And then Tony, before the Eubank fight, Tony had pushed Eubank all the way. Probably, could have got a draw, could have went his way if it was in America.
Yeah.
So no one was giving Steve a chance against Eubank.
See,
this man was...
No one knew.
And then,
sorry for interrupting. Steve went down to America, as you said. And when I went out to see him fight in the Thornton, I was at the Thornton fight, I couldn't believe that was my brother. The transformation, he was made for the pro game. Like, he was meticulous in his planning. He was very tactically aware, great defensive boxer, and very intelligent in the ring. Great round management he had, But when I seen him, I couldn't believe it. But I knew then, I said, he's going straight to the top, But just going back to the start there, Terry Collins, my uncle, ABA champion in England. My father, Leinster middleweight champion. My ma's brother, Jack O'Rourke, heavyweight champion for years, boxed for Ireland many times. Christy Collins, welterweight champion. Rory Collins, middleweight champion. Philip Collins, middleweight champion. Johnny Collins, light heavyweight champion. Jim Collins, light heavyweight novice champion. So there was a lot of champions in our family before Stephen come on the scene, you know. But he topped it off, and it was unbelievable. And I've never stopped being so proud of him. It was just to think that we all slept in the one bed, me, him, and Mick, in a big double bed. He used to warm it up for us. Then we go up, and he was quiet, unassuming, dedicated, great, very meticulous in his thinking of everything, very deep thinker. To think that he could come from that little house in Cabra from Dublin and go in with the greats in this side of the world, and the ones over there, Mike McCallum, as you said, or as he said, Tony Tom, Mike McCallum, Kevin Watts, all top fighters in America. But Steve went in there, and he was tough, very, very tough, and he had a granite chin. But as I say, determination and dedication got him over the line in the end, and thankfully he done really well financially and held on to it, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, and Eubank was very good at winning the press conferences, with his intellect, and he had this cabaret kind of person that turned up, and you love to hate him. But then, if memory serves me right, for that first fight, I think Stephen turned up in all the tweed with and he correct me if I'm wrong, had the Irish Wolfhound with him.
The big 6'4" Irish Wolfhound. I don't know where he came out. I didn't know this was going to happen. He arrived in a tweed suit. He was like Darby O'Gill, his tweed suit and his cap, and this big Wolfhound. I even took a step back and went, what the hell's going on here? But it was brilliant. And he started the press.
But so did Eubank.
What?
So did Eubank. The master of the press conference was outmastered.
That's what happened. Stephen opened up in Australia, and Eubank was looking around, and he was rattled. And I remember being in the lift with him after it. Just so happened to get on the lift in the Burlington. And he said that Billy Davis, his trainer, what the fuck is this all about? This before the mind game started, getting up near the fight. You know what I mean? But Stephen was intelligent, and he's planning. And the night of the fight, the day of the fight, he blew his mind. He blew Eubank out of water with the mind games. And Eubank was all over, so he wanted out. And Stephen, you see, I say to people, you go into Old Trafford 20 years ago, you were beaten before you put your foot in the pitch. You go into Celtic Park, you're beaten, right? Liverpool last year, Man City. When anyone got into the ring with Eubank, the introduction, simply the best. He hasn't been beaten. You're sitting there listening to all that. The crowd singing. Everyone joins in. Even the Stephen supporters were joining in. So Stephen said, well, take that play away. Put the earphones in, put the hood up. And if you look at that entrance, Eubank kept looking over him. Not a stir out of Stephen till he heard the thump on the canvas where Eubank jumps over the ring, and then he pretended to wake up. So we had him gone. But look, that's all grey or wolf house, all that. But at the end of the day, Stephen Collins won with heart, intelligence, strength, endurance, and boxing skills. That's what won it for him. The rest all helped. But that's what won it for him. The second time round was none of that. Stephen just charged straight across the ring, partly quit, didn't give him a minute's space in the ring, cut off everything, hit him with angles Eubank never seen before, overwhelmed him. And that's what we talk about, because that's what he was brilliant at,
And he had some chin as well. He was a tough man.
From a kid, he was the toughest kid in the block, but the nicest kid in the block. He wasn't there. He wasn't a Bowsy, but no one crossed him. He was very quiet and introvert, but you didn't cross Stephen. But I remember I done the corner with him in the Ben fight, and Freddie Roach emphasised Ben still has a heavy shot. I remember Stephen going, just the second round, and Ben hit him with the best right hand he's probably ever thrown. And Stephen didn't even take a step back. He just shook his head and stepped forward. I remember looking in the whites of Ben's eyes, and I knew he wanted out. And subsequently, he bailed out after that. But Stephen had a chin. It was unreal. Unreal. I've never seen it. Like, he was down against Eubank, but it was only a flash one. He wasn't stunned. He was down against Kevin Watts. It was a body shot, and he got up, but he had a massive chin. I've seen him getting hit really hard. Not too many times. Very good defensive boxer. But my God, he could take a shot.
It must have been some buzz about being around that time.
Oh, jeez. We sit down now and we think, did that really happen, I mean, I was reared on Roberto Duran, Muhammad Ali, getting dragged out of the bed, jumping out of the bed to listen to the radiogram with me dad, watching Duran on the telly later in these years and thinking, would we ever be able to afford to go and sit at a world title fight? And there we are all over the world in the corner helping out with my brother. Unbelievable. The family had a journey, and Stephen made it the best journey. He brought us everywhere. He brought us to Vegas. He brought us to Los Angeles, paid for everything, looked after everyone in the family with a few bob. And Artie was brilliant. He was brilliant. And it was a great journey. I mean, I met Vinnie Jones on the journey, still a great friend of mine. I met Sean Edwards. I met loads of people. Liam Gallagher on the lash with Liam Gallagher, Oliver Reid, Ronnie Woods. You know, just brilliant times. Absolutely brilliant.
Just they must have been some sessions.
Oh, jeez. The worst one was Oliver Reid. Stephen said Stephen was going to train a boxer for Oliver Reid, some kid in Cork. So he asked me to come with him to the O'Donoghue's in Merrion. He said, I'm going to meet him, man. Will you come? Stephen wasn't a drinker. He said, you might want to have a few points, just, you know, keep company with me. So I went down there. This fella was sitting with his back to us, but his shirt was on, buttoned up down his back. And he turned around, it was Oliver Reid. Oh, he nearly collapsed. It was brilliant. So I tried to match him drink by drink. I lasted about 2 hours and I was locked. But he lasted the whole night. We left him about 3 o'clock in the morning, but that was an experience. And then Ronnie Wood, another night, I went on the lash. Vinny loads of times. Sean Edwards many, many times up till recently. And it was great. It was brilliant, you know. Brilliant.
Yeah, Roddy, this is an audio podcast, but, you know, I can see you and, like, it's, you know, there's an enjoyment there in that smile. You've had some journey.
Ah, jeez, I've had a brilliant life. That's why, like, I tell stories to people in pubs and that, and they look at me, but it's in black and white now, and it's all true. Like, I tell people stories, and they go, yeah, right, but I can back them all up, you know. Some of the stories, and I remember one morning, we were minted. I was, right? And I got a phone call about 8 o'clock, half 8, and it was Vinnie Jones when he was drinking. He hasn't drank in 8 years. And he said to me, Rod, you know that song, My Big Brother Sylvester? You're always singing it. Yeah. Let me hear it. I want to sing it today in a pub in Hemel Hempstead. And I said, what's the deal for? And he said, Tucker is coming home from Holland or somewhere. He was a carrot he was stuck around with. I said, right, leave that with me. Straight up into the shower, into me clobber, out to Dublin Airport, hat one, singing the song for them in Hemel Hempstead. Right? And Caroline rings me. How are you, Rod? You were up earlier. I says, I was, yeah. Where are you? Are you at a match? I said, no, I'm in Hemel Hempstead singing with Vinny. Are you fucking winding me up? No. Put Vinny on. She says, you better be back in Dublin tonight. We're going to a do on Moyos in Castleknock. I walked into Moyos 9 o'clock that night, no problem. And that was a regular occurrence. Another time, I went on the missing list and I get a phone call from my brother Mikey. He goes, Rod, Carla's looking everywhere. And I says, I know, I'll be home tonight. Why? You're on BBC Racing with Vinnie Jones in Newbury. I said, you're joking. Oh, Jesus. I was getting caught out, you know. I was always back in the big bed that night. That was the main thing, you know.
Oh, brilliant. And Roddy, like, there's so many highlights, but there has to be regrets. Is there any regrets?
Regrets. One regret was walking out with Johnny Giles in the youth international squad. I thought I was playing. Convinced with all the build-up that week. I was involved in all the set pieces, everything being spoken to, you know, in the pre-match the day before and the whole. And then on the night of the game, he named it and I was number 12. So I listened to the team instructions. He went around, everyone came to me. I said, I'm only a sub. Yeah, but it's important. I said, F that. And I remember I walked out from the Maples Hotel in Drumcondra back to Cabra, put my civvies back on, and paid back into Dalymount. And that was a regret. Other than that, going into Carlisle with John Carter was the biggest regret in my life ever. It was the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. But I done it consciously. I've no... I was a grown man when I done it, but I took the full day in bargain, as they say. I knew where I was getting into bed with, but I thought it's my only way back into English football as a manager. And that was my biggest absolute regret in life. Till this day, cost me so much. Cost me, I'd say, 10 years of my career, more. And that's the regret.
And Roddy, Kieran Kenny, who introduced me to you to get you on the podcast, a very good friend and a regular with me at Celtic Park. Now, Kieran said to me, make sure you ask Roddy, about Celtic.
Yeah, well, that's all we talk about. So, Kieran's my daughter's social worker, and he comes in. It's gas. I'd be saying, ring Kieran to come up and talk about Lauren. That lasts about 20 minutes. Then we talk about Celtic for the rest of the day, you know. But
he's obsessed.
Yeah, he has his museum. I gave him my prized possession, my Bertie old personalised signed autograph on a beautiful picture of the Lisbon Lions. But it was sitting on my wall, not appreciated by too many people. And I thought, Kieran, you've been so good to us, put that up in your museum. And he did, and he sent me a picture of it. Kieran's one of life's gentlemen. You know, you couldn't but sit and talk to him and feel comfortable. He's such a genuine fella. His love for Celtic is unbelievable. His devotion to Celtic is unbelievable. And I get a great enjoyment and satisfaction out of talking to him about the trips he has over. And I'm going to go on one of them soon after Christmas. I'm going to take a trip over with him. But yeah, Celtic's my club, my team. When I was the manager of Carlisle, I was never out of Celtic Park. I would know Chris Sutton very well, Johnny Hartson, Alan Thompson, who I spoke to last night in Australia. I would know Jackie McNamara, who I done my pro licence with. Great fellas. Love it. They have a great love for the club. Jim McNally, a good friend of mine from his Nottingham Forest days when I was playing for Mansfield Town. So I have a great affiliation with Celtic. My cousin Terry Collins was on the Celtic books as a schoolboy before he went down to Old Trafford. So, love Celtic, love what they stand for, love the support, love the atmosphere, great European nights. I went all the way from day one with Martin O'Neill all the way to Seville. I was at that Seville game against Porto. So, yeah, great affiliation for Celtic, great love for them.
Yeah, that was, you named some players there, and I've been lucky enough to interview most of them and do some nights with them.
Yeah.
That whole era, Roddy, was that whole Martin O'Neill journey we went on was, it's up there with the highlights of my time following Celtic. Just magnificent. You know, but we at the moment we have a manager we didn't know much about when he came in, but we fell in love with him. Just the way we fell in love with Martin O'Neill.
You couldn't help falling in love with him. When he came in at the start, he was taking a bit of abuse, you know, which is natural. But my credit to the man is he came in and just kept the backroom staff there. That's how confident he was. He has a style of play that he believed in, brought it in, which is perfect for Celtic. Right? He stuck to his guns. First 8 games, people were calling for his head, and then he turned it round. And my God, even yesterday, I don't want to see us conceding 3 goals in a game to Hearts, but you'll always back us to score 4 or 5, and it's just electric. It's brilliant at the minute, and it's great that Rangers are having a pop because it makes it more exciting. And it's just great at the moment. It will improve in the European games. It takes a while for players to get to the tempo of European football because the SPL doesn't give you that tempo that you need in the higher echelons of European football. But that will come, and I back him 100%. And he's been a breath of fresh air. I think he's a great man. He's very humble. He's not a mouth, but he's not a shrinking violet either. He'll stand up with his team, he'll stand up with his ideas, and he's just been brilliant. And I just hope that Celtic can hold on to him because I'm sure there's plenty of clubs down in the Premier League. We'll be watching the next year or two and see how it goes with him. But for me, he's been a breath of fresh air. Come out of nowhere, absolutely brilliant. I know Eddie Howe. Eddie's a great fella too. I've done the pro licence with Eddie. And Chris Sutton and Jackie McNamara, we all done it together. And Eddie, for me, I was praying to go to Celtic, to be quite honest with you. But Eddie would have given a more meticulous, long-term planning strategy. He's more, how can I say, conservative, not in his way he plays, but he wouldn't be as gung-ho as what we have now. But he would have been equally successful over the period of time. But look, I think Eddie got the best job for him, and we got the best manager for Celtic.
Yeah, we certainly did, and as I said, we've just like Martin O'Neill, you know, all those years ago, we've fallen in love with Ange, and to be back in the Champions League, people are talking, Roddy, about, you know, Bruges punching above the weight, but this is their 4th campaign, you know.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
In a row.
And the first half against Madrid was unreal. It was unreal, but I knew you couldn't sustain that tempo. You need to put the ball in the back of the net in the first half, you know what I mean? But it was just brilliant to watch. And you think to yourself, if you can build on that against lesser teams, obviously Madrid, one of the best teams in the world, we could have some brilliant nights back in Celtic. I remember one of the best nights I ever had was on the journey to Seville. I think it was Celtic Vigo. It was a 1-0 victory. It was unreal. I never seen Parkhead bounce, or Celtic Park bouncing as well as it did. But my abiding memory was in Seville. I'll never forget it. I had 2 tickets, and me and my wife Caroline, and I had 2 tickets to me, a Swedish fella, and whoever else had 2 tickets. So the ticket agent that I bought mine off asked me to meet a fella, and I waited outside, and I think Celtic were warming up, the 2 teams were warming up, and I couldn't wait any longer. And there was a couple standing trying to buy tickets all night. And I remember calling them over in the front Donegal, and I said, there's 2 tickets. How much do you want? I want nothing. They know I didn't buy them. They're not for me. And I gave them the tickets. And the fella that asked me to present the tickets to the Swedish people, right, lamped me over. I wanted them back. And I went, fuck you. I said, there's 2 people, one of the highlights of Celtic's recent history. And you were going to keep 2 tickets to prove to somebody who didn't bother turning up. And that was a good night for me. And I think if Bobo hadn't been sent off that night, I think the outcome would have been different. But what a night, and what a representation of Celtic supporters. There must have been 40,000 locked out of the ground. I didn't see one instance of hooliganism, bad behaviour, even bad language was curtailed in a bar I was in. There was a few women there, and some fella was effing and blind, and he got a tap on the shoulder. Now, that's not on. We don't do that. And just to be with them was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was,
Oh, it's that journey. I've said it before. If it wasn't for the credit union, I wouldn't have been able to go on that journey. 'Cause we went home and away.
Yeah, well, it wasn't for Caroline stacking me and putting a few quid in my pocket. I was at all the games. I was in Villarreal as well. I remember being in Villarreal. I brought the whole family there, and I brought one of my kids in a buggy to that one. I'll never forget that one. We went. It was in Barcelona. It was brilliant. It was just brilliant on the European games that we went to. But look,
special. Roddy, before I let you go, okay, I've got a Celtic Soul time machine, okay, and I always get my guests to climb into it. Now, Roddy, where does that take you back to? Does it take you back to a game, or does it take you back to a moment? If you could go back anywhere in time, Roddy, where would you go?
European Cup final, only a kid, 7 years of age, right? European Cup final, watching it with my father, right? But not realising it until years later and watching it again. And the first team from that side of the water to win the title was brilliant. Like, people talk about the Busby Bohs I always go, hold on a minute, Celtic were the first. And that to me will always be in my memory. And we Jinky, and I had the privilege to meet them and give them a hug. It was just brilliant. Then my Celtic was the old hoops, the big Hampden Park games that I only ever got to see on telly. And my other one was, as I said earlier, the Celtic Figo game when we won 1-0, and I brought my son to it. And he just couldn't stop talking about it for years. Still to this day, absolutely brilliant. The journey all the way to Seville, I went to every game. Absolutely brilliant. And look, can't wait to get back over again after Christmas. And may it continue in my lifetime. And my son is bringing his partner to an Old Firm game next year. So he's smitten by the whole Celtic thing. And we love it. We love it. It's brilliant.
Oh, brilliant. Roddy, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we've only just touched on stuff, so I can't wait to get the book. I can't wait to read it. It's just been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I knew it would be. And I was even talking to Roland, the producer, before I came in, and he's a musician as well. He's heading over now in the morning. He does the music for all these rich Sky people and BT when they're dividing up the money for the Champions League. Yeah. He gets a gig every year in Monaco.
Lovely.
So they fly him in, and he gets picked up in a helicopter. So he's saying to me, you need to get that podcast over to me quick, he says, or it won't be out.
Lovely.
So
well,
this is going out.
You know what? You're talking about the book, right? The book is the book. I done the audio one myself. It was a growler. Honestly, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But I'm proud of it, because I had to have a battle to talk my talk and my speak. How are you, my old pal? Oh no, how are you, my old pal? I'm not saying it. How are you, my old pal? So I had a battle. I jacked up twice, but we got it over the line after 8 days. It's supposed to be a 4-day project, 8 days. And I'm absolutely delighted with the audio book. I can't wait. I won't read the other book because I don't have to. I've written it, but the audio book I will definitely listen to. So it's coming out on the 17th of November. The RodFather audio book. I've no problem promoting that one because I love it. Because I can speak, as you said, we're doing an audio now. You read a line, right, and it goes, I wanted to fuck John Delaney out the window. That sounds all right. I said it. I wanted to fuck John Delaney out the window. It doesn't read like that, but that's how it is. That's the way it is. The audio book is my one.
Roddy Collins, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Top man.
Once again, thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. Thanks to Roddy for joining me for a chat. If you're listening on Celtic Fanzine TV and you haven't hit that subscribe button, please give it a click so you'll never miss an episode. Once again, thanks to Matt and O'Shea and all at O'Shea's Restaurant, Temple Bar, Dublin for their continued support. Our next live show takes place in November in Dublin and Waterford. John Hartson will be my special guest in Dublin on Friday the 11th when we will be in Peter Brown's Bar, and tickets are available on Eventbrite. And on Saturday the 12th we'll be down on the Waterford Wexford Kilkenny border at the Rue Glen Hotel as guests of the Poglag Ermel CSC. Joining myself and John Hartson will be another Celtic legend, Lisbon Line John Fallon, and tickets for that one can be got from any of the members of the club or also from Pat. And if you DM me, I'll pass on Pat's details, or if you can't get in contact with the lads on social media, just give us a shout and I'll get you sorted out for tickets. So folks, just to recap that, Friday November the 11th we're in Peter Brown's with John Hartson, and Saturday the 12th of November we're in the Rue Glen Hotel as guests of the Portlag Armel CSC with John Hartson and Lisbon Line John Fallon. More Than 90 Minutes issue 123 is now available in both print and digital format, and you can download the digital format by visiting CelticFanzine.com, and if you visit our shop you can order a copy of the new issue and we'll stick it in the post straight away for you. You'll also find subscription details, back issues, t-shirts, badges and scarves at the online shop. At CelticFanzine.com you'll also find daily news and articles, all our audio Celtic Soul podcasts, all our Celtic Fanzine TV videos. We deliver free content to Celtic fans across all platforms, written, visual and audio. And if you'd like to support us, you can do so by sponsoring, subscribing, buying, becoming a member or donating for the price of a pint. And we thank you for all your support over the past 21 years. It's a busy schedule for Ange and the boys again. 2 games coming up. First of all, we're on the road again on Saturday for a midday kickoff against Livingston. A fair play to Livingston, giving us plenty of tickets for that one, so an opportunity for people to get to an away game who wouldn't normally get a ticket. And fair play to Livy, they took points off Rangers at Ibrox last week, but we don't want them taking any points off Celtic this week, because after that big game on Saturday, well, we're all heading for a bit of winter sunshine as we head to Madrid for our Champions League clash with Real in the famous Bernabeu. We'll be back next week, folks, with another Celtic Soul podcast, and you can also catch our Talking the Terrace podcast on Celtic Fanzine TV. That's our Celtic match review and preview show. And you can follow our fan journey across Scotland and Europe on social media and also on the website CelticFanzine.com. Hail, hail, folks.